Dear viewers, in the last episode, or rather in the first part of this conversation with the Lokayukt of Karnataka, Justice Santhosh Hegde, I discussed with him about the powers of the Lokayukta, the functions of his organization, and also the mandate. And in this episode, there are more things to speak with him, and I'm sure that you're going to really be more aware at the end of this episode. Justice Hegde, warm welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I was talking to you about, you having been a Supreme Court judge and you're the Advocate General here too. So you've seen the laws, rather the lawmaking process, and also the power of these laws and how people benefit from it from very close quarters. So how do you understand the laws in this country? Not just the law of the land, but there are so many laws and rules, and the government issues once in a while some, not so proclamations, what do you call them?
Ordinances.
Ordinances and all that. And how they really get implemented, and what effect do they have on the general public administration? And most often it's assumed that all these things are done for the benefit of the people, but people really most often get troubled by them than be what do you say, than to take benefit out of it.
If you have followed the proceedings of the legislatures, including Parliament in the last few years, you would have certainly noticed a great deal of fall in the standard of debate, discussions, and even consideration of various proposed laws.
Yeah. They say, though it's supposed to be the lawmaking body,
yes,
most time is spent on anything but lawmaking.
You're 100% correct.
Okay.
Which is very clear from the recent certain enactments that have been accepted by the Parliament. We have read in the newspaper that in the month of December 2008, the Parliament passed 17 laws in 12 minutes, which is
in just 12 minutes.
In 12 minutes,
which will have such ramifications.
Which I think is
the
must
very
be a world
functioning
record
of this country.
Yeah, which according to me must be a world record. Okay. Because there is a set procedure when you make a law. Because ultimately you are making a law which has far-reaching consequences.
Okay.
Therefore, normal procedure is that every clauses, every section, subsections are read with the object of the amendment in mind.
Okay, and are debated.
Debated. The pros and cons are debated.
About.
Yes. Every member of the Parliament will keep the consequences of such laws with reference to his constituency, his state, and public at large while discussing this matter. It is discussed threadbare.
Okay.
The views, both pros and cons, are put forward, and ultimately, after the debate, the bill is either passed or rejected.
Okay.
If this process, which is, according to me, is mandatorily to be followed, then each bill would take at least few days for it to be passed in the House. But in 17 bills in 12 minutes, it is passed. One thing is certain, I don't think even the title of the bill has been read out in the Parliament.
Okay.
It will take that much time to read 17 titles.
What else are they there for, if they don't have the time to even debate the bills?
Well, this is a question you and I, we don't have an answer. They know they are there only for the purpose of making a law.
No, they say that in the last Lok Sabha, the whole time that was spent on just lawmaking was not even 13 or 14% of the time that was spent there. That means what are they doing there? Just creating noise and shouting and trying to get things as much for themselves as possible.
They are there to settle their personal scores.
Okay.
They are not there to focus on the problems of the nation, problems of the people, or for that matter, what's happening in the country.
Okay.
They are not discussing that at all. It is only one shouting, or members of one party shouting against the other party. Ultimately, nothing constructive.
Do we really need a parliament of that kind?
Well,
because
the answer to that question...
because today Parliament is supreme in this country.
Yes.
And if a Parliament is behaving like that, if this is what we see in a Parliament, if it's not capable of, getting that kind of trust from the public, which repose so much faith in it, what is the use of the system at all?
Answer to that question lies in the feelings of the Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha, who expressed it recently.
Okay, he said you don't deserve to get public money.
You're right.
And you deserve to lose the elections, he
Yes,
said.
he must
and
have
later
said
on
it
he
with
actually
a very, very heavy heart. He must
and
have
he
said
later
it.
on apologized.
Well, maybe
for
it might not have been the right thing to say, but he said the truth.
Okay.
There is difference between right and the truth. He, in the first instance, he said the truth.
Okay.
He felt, reflected the feelings of the people of this country.
Okay.
Maybe the second thing was only to maintain the decorum of the House.
Okay. If a parliament behaves like that, if that's what you see in a parliament, what more can you expect in a state legislature?
Nothing. Even worse. We saw what happened
And
in
how do
Tamil
we
Nadu
expect
Assembly
anybody
recently.
to respect this country of ours? I mean, do we have a democracy? We certainly don't.
That's what I feel. That's what I spoke recently in Gulbarga University convocation. I spoke on a topic, democracy then and democracy now.
Okay.
And according to me, what was contemplated by the constitution makers or framers is not in existence now at all.
For instance, everybody in the Congress party extols the virtues of a man like Nehru, but people do not even think for a moment that Nehru listened to the opposition members. And he sometimes even tried to see if there was some consensus in matters that really concern the people at large. So do you think that people have lost that spirit of democracy?
Yes, I think so. You're right there. What the Constitution contemplated was, after election, inside the House, be it the Parliament or the state legislature, they are not enemies.
Okay. They're all working together for the country.
One group working for the country or the state, as the case may be.
But here there is
it becomes
competition there too.
It becomes a boxing ring. Even when everybody knows that what is being proposed by the government is for the good of the people, it must be opposed because it is coming from one party. We have seen recently in certain laws which were opposed by the party in power today, earlier.
And the same party is trying to
implement it now. And the other party which supported the law or tried to make that law is now opposing it.
Okay.
I mean, this is the situation. The people who have been elected to do their job, be the legislator or the bureaucrat, have lost their responsibility towards their...
No, today, how can we blame the bureaucrats? Because these are the kind of politicians they get to see in the parliament or in the legislature. So how do you expect such moral rectitude or such high quality in them, or such, what do you say, or pricking of conscience when they make mistakes and so on?
No, I don't think...
It's impossible for them to emulate anybody's virtues at all.
Well, because
there are no leaders for this country.
You don't have to have leaders to emulate in your normal everyday duty. Your duties are specified. You know what you are employed, why you are employed.
But you know who your masters are, right?
Oh, your masters are there. They may give you wrong advice. They may give you...
You can still do your job properly.
Yeah, you do your job, so long as you are not afraid of a particular chair.
Okay.
Why do the bureaucrats concede to the request of the politicians? Because they want that chair. They don't want to be shifted from that chair to another chair. Therefore, they have become subservient to the legislators only for the limited purpose. Otherwise, nothing can be done. Under the Constitution, their job is safe.
But do you feel that, like some people say, if really the bureaucrats at least decide to make this country better, no politician can actually spoil it?
100% right.
Because many politicians are quite afraid of what advice they get from bureaucrats. If the bureaucrats were to lead these politicians properly, most of the problems could be solved there too.
Yes, I don't want the bureaucrats to lead the politicians. I want the bureaucrats to do their job honestly, sincerely to the mandate that has been conferred upon them. They have not been elected by anybody.
Okay.
They have been specially trained, hand-picked after competitive examination and put
to do a job.
To do a job. The job is, be it in the revenue side or the financial side or the police side. You have a specified job for which you are trained. Now, if somebody else who has not even been trained, who has not even been qualified to advise you, comes with an advice which you know it's wrong, and if the bureaucrat says, sorry sir, my conscience doesn't permit, my authority doesn't permit this, I will not do it.
Okay.
He may be transferred.
That's all.
That's all, nothing more than that. He can't be removed. But these people have such attachment for particular chairs. They don't want to leave that chair. Therefore, they are prepared to go any extent to appease the powers that are.
Okay, but today, looking at people in the parliament, the MPs, do you feel that most people are not even aware of what the constitution is, at least by the authority of which they have become the MPs in the first place?
I'm quite sure of that.
Yeah.
I don't think 75 to 80% of them have read even the Constitution once, or at least the relevant articles of the Constitution.
For instance, it's very well known that the job of a legislator in a state assembly is not to actually function as an SP or like a minister or to get the jobs done or whatever, but most often they behave like the executing officers. They behave like the executive, whereas they are just the legislators.
Yeah.
And don't you think most often they are spending time executing jobs, implementing the government programs, than actually going around the constituency, talking to people, feeling the pulse, and then coming and reflecting it in the state assembly?
Assemblies, yes.
And don't you think that that's where the maladministration's root is?
Yes. You see, as a matter of fact, if you read the Constitution with the Constituent Assembly debate in mind, then there is no doubt the Constitution of India contemplates a separate legislature, a separate executive, and a separate
But why is this overlapping of interest?
Mainly because of the fact we
because of the money that is...
No, that is the ultimate thing. But I'm saying we ourselves, while adopting this Constitution, though separation of powers is not very clear, bounded by any boundaries or anything, you know, this much is correct. One should not be dependent on the other. See, till recently, judiciary was untouchable by any one of these two organizations. They were not touchable at all. But that gap between the executive and this thing, legislature was lost when the cabinet form of government was chosen. But cabinet was expected to be a small bridge between the legislature and the executive, so that the elected representatives' views and policies which have been inculcated in the laws that they have made, are implemented by the executive, only to oversee that.
Basically, that was what it is. But now, the cabinet itself has become the complete executive.
And that is the government.
And whereas when there is a competition between the legislators and the people in the cabinet because of being, what do you say, by chance or because of that extra favor that they may have received or because of some superior qualification, there is this idea in the ordinary legislators that they also need to function like the cabinet, what do you say, ministers or the executive to be able to be important in the society.
That is clear from the fact most of the elected representatives love to say from any platform by beating their chest, I am an elected representative. Meaning thereby that he belongs to a superior class than anybody else. I recently had an experience in when one legislator was arrested and brought to Lokayukta office, some elected representatives came and started beating their chest and trying to tell me that they are the elected representatives. I asked them, what do you mean by that? No, we have a right to ask questions.
Who gave that right? It's not there in the Constitution. And everybody takes the name of the Constitution. Why don't people like you talk to these people about what is there in the Constitution?
You should listen, isn't it?
No, it's not about listening, but why can't at least the courts put the record straight? Because the courts are there to interpret the Constitution, or at least to make these people understand what there is in the Constitution to begin with. That's not being done, because even most often, with all due respect to the courts, I mean, the courts are not doing their job too when it comes to, putting our legislature or the executive in order.
Well, it's all because of the fact so much importance is given to these politics that it is overflowing from legislature to Vidhan Saudha, which is the executive's center and all. Then Vidhan Saudha, then onwards down the bureaucratic hierarchy and all. Consequently, every decision that is taken has a political color in it.
But is it actually possible that though people may have not got the interpretation right, in simple terms, that if a bureaucrat doesn't listen to the instructions from an MLA, It's absolutely all right, because
According to me.
the legislator needs to speak, if he has anything to say, only in the legislature.
Yes,
He doesn't have any business with the executive at all.
No.
And if he has to do, he needs to approach the executive only through the proper channels that are available there.
Yes.
And even going and standing in front of the chief minister's office and asking for some things to be implemented only because he needs to get elected defeats the very purpose of the constitution.
Absolutely, you are
So
right.
all these people are anti-constitution in their functioning.
Yes.
Aren't they?
It is so.
Then why
It is so.
are we not, trying to at least correct this once and for all?
No, but where is the power to correct? You has the power to correct, will correct it in
No,
no
why
time.
power? But at least,
You see,
there is,
look here.
for instance, the courts can at least say, look, you cannot do this, and stop it once and for all.
Well, it never goes on record. This is one thing you should notice.
Yeah.
Any decision that is taken by the bureaucrat at the behest of the politician never goes on record.
No, for instance, why do the politicians sign on papers saying that the recommendations?
Yes.
That itself is going to be in violation of their constitutional
I'll tell you,
mandates, right?
The courts have taken exception to this type of recommendations.
Okay.
I myself, in the mining report, has stated that there should be no recommendation by any elected representative in any of the functioning of the executive unless that recommendation is in public interest.
Okay.
That was in the context of some elected representatives writing to the secretary concerned or the managing director of a company concerned, saying, give Mr. X so many lakh tons of mineral.
Okay.
I said, this can't be done.
There is no provision for it.
This is exactly
and there is no authority in that, provision also, if there was one. And there is no value for that signature too, if there is any recommendation that is made there.
Yeah, when I asked the reply
Yeah.
from these people, why did you give this letter of recommendation? Their reply was, as a representative of the people, we are there to help people.
What
I
is
said,
the meaning? You're not the representative of people to make money or sanction things. You are there to only reflect the aspirations of your voters.
Again,
you are there only to, take the, mandate of the people in terms of their collective, interests represented in the state assembly. That's all your job is, nothing else.
Your job is only in the platform given to you.
That's all.
Yeah, beyond
that's
that,
where it
nothing.
begins and
Yeah.
that's where it ends.
Yeah.
And that way, even that money, that MLA's development fund. That too is meaningless, isn't it?
It's under challenge, so it's sub judice before the Supreme Court. They have not yet decided the issue. It's in the final stages of hearing, I think.
But then, if at all, if at all, these things cannot be at least questioned in the court. And if the courts won't interfere and will not interpret in the way that the country needs to know, then there is no hope at all, right? Then we'll just be speaking about the constitution like we speak about a storybook somewhere.
Well, I hope you don't reach that extreme stage, but we are moving towards that.
But
yes.
Is it such a hopeless situation in this country? Like you yourself have said on many occasions that the amendment to the CRPC itself is such a dangerous thing that it could lead to anarchy.
It is certainly, it's my view, because you should analyze it. Now, take for example, the Prevention of Corruption Act was made immediately after we became independent. There was a provision in the Indian Penal Code itself as against corruption by public servants. But they found that the magnitude of corruption was so much in that year, 47-48, it required a special law. So they made the Prevention of Corruption Act. It defined the various acts which would amount to corruption, the gratification that could be received by a public servant, and so on and so forth, and the punishment also. Now, in 1988, they amended it a bit and made the bribe giver also an accused. Okay, in 2008, just take into consideration the magnitude of corruption from 47-48 to 2008. Is it increased or has it decreased?
Everybody knows.
Everybody has an answer. Well, that also, I'm sure, is an answer which will, they say, thousands of times more. If that be so, there was a need to make that law stricter.
More stringent.
More stringent.
Yeah.
So that the people who are involved in these type of illegal activities have some sort of a fear.
Okay.
No. They brought in 3 amendments which made the act weaker, which made the investigation impossible as against the corrupt people. The three amendments you should know. One is, there was a section 13(1)(d)(3), which said that if a public servant by his act causes loss to the state and benefits some third party, even without benefit to himself, then it is an offence, it's a misconduct punishable under the act. They deleted that section.
So today you need not make it for yourself, you can make it to your friends or relatives or anybody else and say that, look, I have not benefited, so perfectly all right.
I can't.
Okay, so it's almost, you know, what do you say, legalized corruption. Okay.
Then the next is, there was no need for a sanction. First of all, according to me, there is no need for a sanction for anybody in the act. But anyway, till 2008 December, there was no need for a sanction to prosecute a retired officer.
Okay.
They have extended that sanction. Okay. Now, third and very important is, the service rules in almost all departments require the public servant concerned to give his assets and liability statement every year to the government. And every time he acquired anything more than 2,000 rupees worth of asset, it should be with the prior permission of the government.
Okay.
Now, during the course of investigation, if it is found that he had assets of money more than what he has declared to the government, then the burden of proof shifted on the government servant concerned to prove how he acquired it, or legitimately or not. And all. This was a potent weapon in the hands of the investigating agency, because all they had to prove was, please see, here is the statement given by him to the government, here is the proof of assets that he's got, which doesn't tally as much more than what he has declared. Now please ask him, where did he get it from?
Okay.
They have removed that presumption.
So what does it say
now? When you remove the presumption,
in the investigating,
burden is on the investigating agency.
Oh.
I mean, it is something I just can't imagine that any government which is concerned with the growing
about
corruption,
good governance, basically, can even imagine.
Imagine making a law like Prevention of Corruption Act weaker than what it was after 40, 50 years or 60 years maybe.
So it's almost like presuming that there is no corruption at all, and only the investigating agencies are against these officers, so you need to protect these officers.
This is exactly the thing. This is exactly the position in law. I am very, very glad that at least yesterday I read a member of Rajya Sabha openly saying that this is not correct at all. And the person, if I may name Mrs. Karat, Binda Karat, she said, I'll raise this issue in the Rajya Sabha and I'll oppose it tooth and nail.
Okay.
Again, there are some people who want to fight this corruption.
You say that the IPC, as it was, had stood the test of time.
Yes.
And now with these amendments, things are going to be very difficult.
Extremely
For instance,
difficult.
some woman could be outraged on the road, and you know the maximum you can do is just give a notice. The police officers can just give a notice to the man.
Come and appear before me so that I can investigate.
So he can continue to do it till he is punished.
It really makes, again, this is an amendment to the Criminal Procedure Code. Section 41 is amended, where it says, if the alleged offence is punishable with 7 years or less imprisonment, then no police officer shall straightaway arrest him. Which power hitherto he had in a cognizable offence. Now, if you take away that power, the very fear of the policeman is lost.
Already there is no fear with all this.
Yes. Now, see the consequences. I look at it in a slightly different manner. These police people are used to that power, without which the uniform and that, without power and uniform, they are nothing. Therefore, they want to retain it. The most likely consequence is, wherever the offence is, wherever the offence is a lesser degree, they will put a offence of higher degree. For example, if there is an attempt to assault, they will say attempt to commit murder. That is more than 7 years sentence. So he gets the power to arrest him. Whether there is a simple hurt, they will say grievous hurt with a deadly weapon. It's got more than 7 years. This type of attitude will certainly start. So I don't think in the end it will serve the purpose for which it is supposed to be made. That is, the purpose is to prevent police officers from arresting people for collateral purposes.
Okay.
One thing. Secondly, that there are thousands of under trial prisoners who are languishing in jail.
Okay.
Therefore, we are bringing this law.
Okay.
That object will be defeated, according to me.
Okay.
Certainly.
Not at all well thought of.
According to me, no. It's not a well thought of.
Okay, but at least the thing that we can be glad about is that the Karnataka government is objecting to this one.
They have objected, but then the voice of the
most of the other states have already implemented it.
Not yet, because I don't think it's yet been notified.
What would be the state in most of these states of ours where we don't even have a Lokayukta? Though you may not be able to function to the fullest of your mandate, but at least we have a Lokayukta here. Imagine those states where you don't even have a Lokayukta. What must be the state there?
I'm sure maladministration is much more there than in this state.
But do you think that way, at least because people respect the Lokayukta and even the government is, though wary of it, like I would say, also accepts that there is a Lokayukta and the Lokayukta is doing his job, then we must be a better state.
Well, it's a very, very comparative thing.
Okay.
We are
because you're getting a lot of response from the general public.
That is true. That's what I said.
Completely,
by that itself, a state's administration doesn't become good.
Okay.
But one thing is saying, for some reason or other, the state of Karnataka accepted the recommendation of first ARC, Administrative Reforms Commission, headed by Mr. late Moraji Desai, and formed an Lokayukta institution here with somewhat better powers than other states have given.
Okay, which itself is commendable to an extent.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but it requires some more powers.
See, more than the supervisory role, more than the overseeing role, more than your role in preventing corruption, don't you think that in a way that you are the conscience of the state?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because what the state should be, it can be anything, but at least, listening to you, that people can at least...
I don't know if they listen to me, but they hear me all right. There's a little difference between the two.
Yeah.
When you listen...
you at least take some attention to it.
But then another advantage is that when we speak about it publicly, then people realize that what exactly is happening, many things which is happening inside the governance, they may not know about it and all. They come to know of it and all. They also raise their voice. Because I have read many letters to the editor demanding that additional powers be given to the Lokayukta.
But sometimes you sound like an opposition leader. Why do you?
Well, a person is an investigating agency like me.
I can never be friends with the perpetrator.
No.
Okay. So you're happy with what you're doing today?
Well, I must say I'm almost happy.
Okay. But you...
There are moments of disappointment. There are moments when you feel you have failed the people, where you could have sort of helped the people much more.
But you're going to continue to do it?
Until my turn.
Whatever are the adversities?
Certainly. In between, I did try to run away, but I was advised not to run away because having accepted this job,
you better do it.
You are like getting into a war field, and then facing adversity and trying to run away will only make you a coward.
If you do not execute your responsibilities, who else should? At least that way you need to be an example. Okay. But don't you think the best way for you could be that you engage people who are in the path of corruption, than try to see that how you can stop them or punish them?
Engage
in the sense, perhaps, get them to like most of the things that you spoke about, how a bureaucrat can actually, not be worried about his seat and put things straight.
If they invite
because
me,
a Lokayukta cannot be seen as somebody who is an adversary, like somebody who is there to punish them. Then somebody who can work with them, somebody who can educate, somebody who is like a teacher, somebody who can correct them and all that. Don't you think that role would be more suitable for a Lokayukta?
Also, that role also along with the other role I'm playing. But as a matter of fact, soon after I took over as Lokayukta Karnataka, I met the IAS officers. I went to the association, met the members, and I told them, please don't look at the institution of Lokayukta as an adversarial institution. No, it is very much there to help you also and advise you. I mean, this is what I told them. But things have not been the same as I expected it to be.
But are the bureaucrats aware of how they can get into trouble if at all you come to?
They are aware because many of them many of them have faced consequences also, and the wrath of the court they have faced. But some
But
reason,
are there also good officers?
Oh, certainly. Oh, certainly. You can never say that in any institution. There are good,
But it's a general
good politicians
no,
also.
No, it's a general perception that good politicians or good officers are most often quite incapable, inefficient. Perhaps they are not bad because they've not found opportunities, or perhaps they're not smart enough to make money.
that may be the feeling of many people who would like to bribe and get the work done. But this is the feeling, of course, it's there amongst the people, that a person who is honest is not effective.
Okay.
That feeling is there. But there are officers who are honest, who are bold, and who care a hoot for anything that is happening to them. Okay. They don't care for the chair, they're willing to go anywhere. Most of them are placed in a post which is totally of no
consequence.
No consequence.
Okay, but today, to make this country better, what do you feel that the youth need to do? Because you know that most youth are quite cynical and do not have hope at all.
Yeah.
And they themselves are no better.
Yeah. No, first of all, the youth must develop an attitude of satisfaction within the four corners of their legitimate income.
Okay.
Everything else will fall in line. Everything else. It's only when your desires become much more than your capacity to earn legitimately, all the problem arises.
Okay.
Now, if you are going to become a bureaucrat, you want to get into All India service, his commitment should be the people only.
Okay.
You know what salary you are getting.
Okay.
You should be satisfied with that salary.
Okay.
You know right to your retirement age, if there is no increase subsequently, you will get X amount.
Okay.
You think about it and you join.
Okay.
There were days, I have seen in my younger days, young IAS, IPS officers willing to go to the forest area, in a village in the forest area, and prepared to serve people there. Okay. They had that enthusiasm. They never wanted a office in the capital of the state or capital of the country. But today things are different. Even a young officer does not want to go to a rural area.
Okay.
He wants to be in Bangalore, close to the powers that are. And for that he is prepared to do anything. Once they try and understand what is really satisfaction means.
Okay. Then most things can be
according to
taken
me,
care of.
Yes.
And things would just fall in place.
I think so. I think so.
I think that's the secret for hope. On that note, I must thank you, Justice Hegde, for having spent so much time with me discussing.
It was my pleasure being with you and having a discussion with you. Thank you very much for calling me.